What to do when your trust has been broken by the people you rely on the most. A woman found love in a man she met online through a family member and embarked on a 10-year-long relationship. Throughout the years, they had a stormy affair. She lost a lot and gained very little, but was set to meet the man who had suffered physically and emotionally while being away from her. Both lived in incredible distress because of this online relationship, but only one of them was real. Kira was a 29-year-old woman working as a freelance marketing consultant who also worked at a radio station. In 2009, someone sent her a friend request. It was an 18-year-old named JJ. He was her baby cousin, 17-year-old Simran's boyfriend. Kira thought nothing of it, so she befriended him. Later on, JJ introduced his big brother, Bobby, a cardiologist, to Kira. Bobby wanted to thank her because she had a big impact on his little brother's growth. Kira thought it was weird because the interactions between her and JJ were very vague and non-sentimental in any way, but she thanked him. It all started as a friendship. Bobby would write these long paragraphs telling Kira about his day and his thoughts. He was about to become a dad, so Bobby would tell her how exciting he was and send her pictures of the baby's clothes he bought.
So at some point, a few months into Kira and Bobby's friendship, something really weird happens, which, if it had gone slightly differently, could have meant that the whole scam fell apart.
Maybe 2 months after meeting Bobby online, Kira wanted to have fun on a Saturday night. The girls went to a club in Brighton, and at around 2 in the morning, she spotted Bobby sitting in the bar. She went to say hi, but he didn't really acknowledge her. He was polite to her, but there seemed to be a misconnection there. Kira thought it was because he was probably drunk, so she left it at that. But to her, this was factual evidence of his existence.
If it had been 3 hours earlier, if it had been a meeting in a cafe where they could have had a proper conversation, it wouldn't have taken much for the whole scam to have fallen apart.
So Bobby went to Kenya to meet some of his relatives. Interestingly enough, Simran, Kira's cousin, was also there in Kenya. I guess the boyfriend took her there to meet his family? Well, Bobby gets shot and dies. But not really, he's fighting for his life though. This according to the cousin. Simran also told Kira that Bobby was put in the witness protection program and they took him to a hospital in New York City. Bobby couldn't talk a lot about things, but this whole ordeal brought the couple much closer than they were before. Kira thought he was not gonna make it because he kept telling her how much he was in pain, suffering multiple strokes, blood clots. The guy was a sneeze away from dying.
Kira wasn't just speaking to Bobby, she was speaking to his medical consultant, to his friend, to his ex-wife, to a whole bunch of other people who were all confirming and supporting what Bobby was telling Kira.
Bobby ended up confessing his love for her and everyone was confirming his feelings towards her. Even her cousin Simran thought it was an obvious escalation, so in 2015 they became an official couple. Kira wasn't really into the guy at that moment, but she thought of making his last moments as beautiful as she could.
One of the convenient things about Bobby's medical problems was that in one of his operations, his vocal cords were damaged.
It was the case, so he couldn't speak.
Again, if this were a regular catfish situation, this would be a red flag, but so many people had confirmed his existence. Even her cousin knows this man because it's her brother-in-law, so how could this not be true? Bobby couldn't video chat or send pictures because he was still under the witness protection program in New York. And why did she believe this? According to Kira, it's very common for a South Asian to know someone who was violently killed, so Bobby's survival would put him in danger, hence why he was protected. Everything made sense.
Bobby became increasingly controlling.
Literally like challenge us, like, well, I'm gonna kill myself, what are you gonna do? It was literally like that. He always needed that reassurance. You know, if I put my head back in that time, definitely I wasn't me, and I'd say it to him. I'm not myself, I don't recognize myself.
These vague yet specific threats took a toll on Kira's mental health. Bobby would weaponize his strokes or his operations into submitting Kira to do what he wanted. The only time she had for herself was at work because once she was at home, the multiple messages kept coming and coming. Kira wanted to leave the relationship, but she couldn't bear to do it. It became a sick symbiotic bond. Both needed each other for different reasons, one being more twisted than the other. While Bobby kept having horrible medical issues, Kirat had lost a lot of weight and also a lot of people in her life. She had to laser focus on Bobby, hence why friends and family became a second thought. Kirat also quit her job because of the immense stress Bobby was putting her in. The only family member who understood her and listened to her was Simran. She even went to New York on a business trip and told Kirat she saw Bobby in person. He was recuperating and he couldn't wait to go back to the UK and finally be together. By this time, Kirat was infatuated with Bobby, or I don't know if it was infatuation or an obsession. Maybe control? Bobby kept hyping his trip to the UK and he kept canceling at the last minute, breaking Kirat's heart every single time. He became so sick that she told her family Bobby was already in the UK and she was going to meet him again because it was real and she was not getting played, and she would just hop on her car and drive aimlessly. But even in those car rides, she was not left alone. Bobby would constantly create scenarios to fight over them. 3 years later, in 2018, she had enough and contacted a private investigator to find the man in the pictures. And soon after, they delivered her an address. She knew where this guy lived now, but couldn't bear to go and investigate. Until one day and another fight with Bobby. She was so tired of all of this that she decided today was the day. Kirat drove to Brighton, parked her car, and knocked on the door.
When he eventually opened the door, his, what I thought ex-wife came out with his son, who I treated as my stepson.
At that moment, Kirat is seeing someone that she's spent the last 8 years in a friendship and then a relationship with. And Bobby is looking at someone who he's never seen before in his life.
Just like in the bar, he knew nothing. This man had someone stealing his and his family's pictures to use them in a 10-year scam. While on her car ride back home, Kirat was speaking with her cousin, telling her someone had been lying to her and using Bobby's pictures to do it. Kirat also went to the police because this was an elaborate scam that lasted a decade. And I guess by recounting every detail to the cops, she started thinking.
Wait a minute!
My cousin told me she saw this man on multiple occasions. He is her brother-in-law. She was the one who told Kirat he got shot in Kenya and later went to New York and saw him again.
There is no such thing as a coincidence.
Now, Simran told her Bobby made her lie to her. She didn't see him in New York, and Bobby told her to tell Kirat that for some reason. But what about the rest? Again, Kirat went to see this Bobby person, but still, he was supposedly JJ's brother, Simran's boyfriend. There was a link between those two families, and yet there was none. The next day, it was the end of everything. Kirat finally got to know the truth from the mouth of her online lover.
Well, then when she came, she confessed to it all being her. She's your baby sister. I called her my baby sister. You know, like you wouldn't even imagine somebody would go that far.
It was Simran all along. She had been Bobby, she had been all the different characters, and for over a decade, she had been pretending to be this person online and creating a false relationship with her cousin.
This Simran person is whack. First, it all started when she was a teenager. Catfishing your family member is catfishing is creepy. But for 10 years? And the relationship wasn't good. Bobby was possessive. He even made Kirat quit her job, and all of her friends she lost because of it, and she knew it. Simran knew how much damage that relationship was making, and she continued. With no remorse, she did not apologize to Kirat. My guess is that she confessed because Kirat told her she went to the police to sort everything out. Believe it or not, Simran was a star student, very smart, bright future, lots of friends. Maybe she thought her future was compromised by what she did to her cousin, and coming clean will stop Kirat from pursuing the law. She went back to the police and exposed her case, only to not be taken seriously. According to the cops, there was no law broken, so they could do nothing about it. Simran continued with her life, traveling with work and friends like it never happened. What a cycle. Kirat was left to pick up the pieces. I think the law should take a look at that family because one of them is probably, most likely, unstable. If she could do something so callous and malicious as to steal a decade from the family's life, imagine what she could do to a complete stranger. I hope Kirat can move on from this, and I really hope her family is on her side. There have been cases where family protects the aggressor, so let's just think it's not the case. Laws need to change. How many stories should we see about people getting their entire retirement funds taken because of a romance scammer? Things are only getting worse, so this is the perfect moment to change things to protect the people getting scammed and also the people whose identities are being stolen to commit a crime. Thank you for watching.